we've been talking about how each of us got into this business, and I can talk about that later at lunch, but for me, what's really key is understanding the rules of the game. If you want to get a job in this industry, there are rules. Brandon brought up a really good one, which is if you see a job posted on a website, it's probably already filled. That's true. So, you know, understanding how to network is really, really important. But to take us through a number of other different ways to jumpstart your career, we're bringing up Kim Doherty. She's an unbelievable thinker in this space. She's a strategist, she's a content developer, but specifically she specializes in how to start your career. She creates seminars, she creates content focused on getting out of the blocks fast. And the way you make that in first impression pretty much dictates the success of yourself in an interview, but also in that first job, and in that second job, and in the first 90 days of a new job. So she's a remarkable speaker. She's a very talented woman, and we're really, really lucky to have her here. So let me bring to the stage Kim Doherty.
So I love following up on a speaker who's already broken the swearing boundary barriers. So no matter what comes out of my mouth, now I'm not panicked about it. First of all, how many of you have come to this conference with business cards? Way to go. How many of you are grad students? Okay. Well, I speak with both and work with and teach both grad students and undergrads, so I'm thrilled to be here, and I can't tell you how cool, as you probably already know, the media industry is in all of its different iterations. And as you've seen so far today, there are many, many different iterations, which is one of the cool things about still being in school, is that you are in a target-rich environment when it comes to figuring out what you want to be doing. Okay, let's see if this works. Hot damn, okay. We're already ahead of the game here. So what we're going to talk about today is what are the 10 things you can do while you're in college that basically help you double down on your tuition. How many are going to graduate with any kind of student loans? Yes, okay. So this is the one where we're going to help you make the most of those dollars. So before we get started, I want you to get comfortable with the concept of professional equity, which is 3 things. It's what you know. It's your domain knowledge. So you're going through your programs to build a knowledge base of really cool stuff about what you know how to do in the media space. But while you're doing that, you might as well be doing these other 2 things as well, because it's these other 2 things that are going to land you your jobs. What you know, and who knows what you know and what you can do with it. So your knowledge, your network, and your brand visibility. Remember, I don't know about the rest of you, but when I was growing up, my dad used to always say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. You know a lot of people. Okay, first tactic. When you go to grad school or you go to undergrad school, you're first person in college from your family, everybody's got an agenda for you. Your job is to take control of that and start building your own career agenda while you're in college. So what does that look like? Well, the first thing is, you're the guy in charge. That means you are very comfortable saying to anyone else in your universe, which could be a parent, a significant other, a teacher, a program administrator, yes, I know I've got to take these classes and I'm going to learn this stuff, but I've also developed this timeline, this execution plan of what else I'm going to be doing while I'm in college so that I actually can get a job when I graduate. So what do you want to focus on? I would say in your career agenda, while you're going through your program, you want to focus on the big 4. And again, that is building evidence of what your professional skills are. That's your domain knowledge, what it is you know. Second one, building your network, what you're doing here. You smart cookies, you came to one of the most powerful sessions you can come to while you're in school. Your job while you're here now is to network the daylights out of everybody you see around here. The third one is to build your brand visibility, and we'll talk a little bit about how to do that. And the fourth one is to take every opportunity you can to explore the industries. Because as you're going to see, there are not only 40 different industries in the media space, there are 400 different kinds of jobs in each one of those 400 different industries. So your job is to basically hijack your program and your classes and use them to do this kind of exploration. So what actions are you going to take? This is where you're going to figure out what it is you need to do and make sure that you are doing that as well as getting those papers in, because quite frankly, your classes are very important. You're paying your tuition dollars for those classes, but this is where those tuition dollars are really going to pay off for you. So big piece of this is multipurpose your assignments. And that means I've given, say I am an adjunct instructor at the University of Denver, and I've given you an assignment to do XYZ. Your job is to look at that assignment and figure out, okay, what else can I do with this assignment besides work my butt off and get an A on it, or a B, or whatever. There are lots of things you can do with your assignments. For example, first and foremost, use them to connect. There is, trust me, no assignment that you're doing that you can't use as an excuse to call somebody on the phone or email them and say, I'm a student in this grad program or this undergrad program, and I'm really fascinated by this aspect of the media industry. Could I do an informational interview with you, excuse me, so that I could include a quote from you in my paper? You are under the student halo. This is like magic, and this is why you want to work this so much while you're in college, is because almost anyone will take a phone call or communicate via email with a student. Once you're no longer a student, you lose that because everybody thinks you're looking for a job. You haven't really called them for, excuse me, an informational interview. You're really, sort of stealth looking for a job. But when you're a student, they really believe you. They believe that you want to learn from their expertise, and truly you do. So this is where you really want to get out there and find out everything you can. Thank you. Sorry, I've been doing presentations all week, and this one just caught up with me. All right, so using them to connect, assume everybody's going to talk to you, and you want to talk to everybody. Every single assignment you have, if you can, use it as an excuse to connect with somebody else that will help you build your network and build your brand. When we talk about building your professional portfolio, that's not so much actually a physical entity as it is having a lot of signature projects to point to. So if you recall, and I can't remember which speaker it was, but one of our earlier speakers was saying that the pivotal moment for him was when he reached out to one of his coolest profs and said, I'm interested in what you do and I'd like to get to know you better. So all of a sudden, if that prof is doing a research project or consulting work for an outside client or writing an article, all of a sudden you've got something you can participate in. And then when you're sitting in an interview, you can talk about this experience. You can document how cool your skills are by what you're telling people you can do with them and you have done with them. So look for signature projects anytime you can to build your portfolio. Use your projects and your class assignments to build visibility. One of the things you're going to find, I'm guessing this is probably not news to you, but when you go in for an interview, the first thing that somebody is going to do when they're looking, before you get to the interview, when they're looking at your application, is they're going to Google you. They're going to look for an online presence. They're going to see who you are and what you've done under the assumption that most of that is online. And so if you have done a great slide or a great PowerPoint presentation, put it up on SlideShare. If you've done a great video, put it up on YouTube. Create places for people to find really terrific information about you So use your assignments to try to create those really great pieces of evidence. Tactic number 3, create your own learning assignments. How many of you know how to write using the academic AP style guides and all that jazz? Okay, so that's great, and I'm sure it's getting you an A in your classes, and I'm here to tell you the second you walk out of class or your program with your grad degree, you want to forget everything you learned, because what you want to know how to do is write for the real world. You want to be able to communicate with the real world. And the big difference there is that when you're writing a paper for academia, it's what I would call the just-in-case approach. You include the 20-page bibliography. You lead off with, literature says this, that sort of thing. Trust me, if you do that in the real world, people will think you're an idiot, and they will not read a word that you say. And if we have academics in the audience here, I apologize if I'm offending anyone. What you want to do is the just enough approach. So when you write for the business world, when you write for the real world, the writing that you want to have nailed is how to write just enough information to document your idea, to provide decision support, to provide an outline of an action plan. Don't give people more than they need, because for every word that you write that's more than needed to be there, you've lost attention all the way along. So from my perspective, one of the most important learning assignments you can give yourself while you're in school is learn how to write effectively and for the business world. Second thing is to learn how you learn. Everybody learns differently, but you're going to find that as you go out into the business world and your careers, your ability to learn on the fly is going to be a huge professional asset to you. And so what you want to practice while you're in your programs is, how do I learn? Do I learn by listening to something over and over again, so that I tape something and then I hear it a number of times? Do I learn by outlining a topic? Do I learn by doing a lot of research and then pulling together a top-down kind of an approach? As I said, everybody has a different approach. You want to figure out what yours is. So when Joe Doe, the VP of Program Development, comes in and says, we need somebody who can figure this out for us, and you kind of have the background, but I know this is a stretch beyond what you've done before, you can with total confidence say, hey, I know how to learn really fast. Put me on that project. So this is a killer skill for you to master. This last one, okay, show of hands. How many of us love group projects? Okay, so here's what you need to know. Life is a group project. Your career is a group project. This is one of the skills that everybody is looking to hire for now. They're hiring people who can work in a team environment, either as a team member or as a team leader. So again, you want to put this on your learning agenda while you're going through your programs. Look for those group projects and lead them when you can. Assume you're going to have at least one person who doesn't get his work done. You'll have 2 more people who never make it to meetings or the conference calls, that sort of thing. Your job is to figure out how to still pull this together and succeed, because you're looking at real life. You're looking at your coworkers there on those team projects. So I would put this top of my list on your create your own learning assignments. Okay, tactic number 4, and that's what you're doing here today, and you again have tons of opportunities to do this while you're going through your programs. Figure out how the industry lays out, because there are so many different players and contributors and categories within digital media and cable and all of these associated groups. Your career options, quite frankly, are almost limitless. But you won't know that they're there if you don't know how the industries lay out. So figure that one out as part of your learning assignments. Okay, so where are the opportunities? All of these are just off the top of my head areas where I've either worked with a client on something that related to this, or I've been writing about a client that did something related to this. That's a starter, but I'm guessing you could blow that list out by a factor of 100, and you'd have where all the jobs are. Your goal is to figure out where you want to play and where you're going to build your bridges in via your connections. Get to know the key players. Well, this has been a great opportunity for you to get to know the key players, some of the key players, and in fact, you're going to get to have lunch with some of them too. So how else are you going to do that? Remember those informational interviews? You're going to use your assignments to figure out who's where you want to be and how are you going to connect to them. Monitor the information resources. Jeff Baumgartner was here speaking about representing multi-channel news. We all know multi-channel news, I'm assuming, but now it's much more online. The online resources, who are the thought leaders that are writing online? Who are the key bloggers in the areas that you're interested in? What's the key video that you want to be watching? I, of course, with my Pivot button, would recommend that you check out Pivot to see who the thought leaders are going to be on the Pivot programming. You want to go broad on this, because at this point, my guess is you're not quite sure how you want to narrow down. So you want to be looking at who's talking about what as a way to get a sense of where you might want to play or where you might want to become a thought leader. Okay, tactic number 5, you're going to explore best fit. That means, are you going to fit in great with a company that's got a monthly deadline, that's got a weekly deadline, that's doing 6-month projects? Do you like stability in your jobs? Are you looking for a startup? Is it important to you to be part of a team, or would you rather work as an independent? One of the cool things about all of these different industries is that all of these options are on the table. So part of what you need to be doing when you have guest speakers come into your classes, listen to how they describe their jobs. When you do an informational interview with someone, listen for yourself to what reaction you're having about what they're describing. Are you thinking, oh my God, I'd kill myself if I had to work for this company or in this job? Or are you thinking, whoa, I never even thought of this. This could be really, really cool. Or I don't really want to do this like right now when I get out of school, but maybe like 10, 15 years down the road, this would be a really cool kind of path to be taking. So that's what you want to be thinking about as you're thinking about best fit options. Again, here are all of the different kinds of jobs you might be doing for any company that you're working for, within any industry in media. Again, talk to as many people as you can, and if you can use them to create an assignment around them, 2 for 1, did a great job. What kind of organization? Again, I've worked for startups more than I'd like to recall. I've worked for mainstream media companies. I've led a number of startups. And they all have a different look and feel. So I would encourage you, when you're doing your exploration, when you're doing your information interviews, or you're listening to your guest speakers, try to focus on as many different types of opportunities as you can, again, so you can gauge your own reactions of, yep, this would fit me, this is who I am, and this is a good fit for me, or, oh my God, once again, I'd run screaming from the room if I had to do this. Okay, and then lastly, here's something I would encourage you to think about, because frequently this is a career building process. You may start out at company 1, which is a well-known traditional media company of some sort. Then at company number 1, you get to be really good buds with the woman down the hall who is starting up her own company doing XYZ, and she's rounding up a startup team. And you may decide, well, maybe I'll try that. So you go with your bud down the hall on the startup team, and after 6 months, the company goes bust. Then you may decide, but wait a minute, I've learned enough stuff that I could maybe go independent, and I'd like to try that, and that might be really cool. And then you might end up with some recruiter coming to you saying, we've got a company that's dying for your skills, but you don't want to give up the independence, so maybe you negotiate with that recruiting company and say, yes, as long as I can also do this other stuff that I do on the side. So one of the cool things about the way people work these days is you can have a little bit of everything depending on where you are in your life, what your financial requirements are, what your personal obligations are. But this is why you are continually building your visibility and your network, is that the bigger your network is and the more people who know how cool your skill sets are, the more these opportunities are going to walk in the door and find you. Okay, so write it down, key it in, plug it in however you want to plug it in. I would suggest you start keeping a record of some sort where you can write down the stuff you need to do or you want to do while you're going through school so you don't lose it, you don't forget it. So even, say you read an article online and you thought, whoa, that guy's really cool or that woman has really got a path that's fascinating to me. I'm looking at my assignments. Nothing lends itself to this right now, but next quarter or next semester, I'm taking that class in ABC. And I think I could probably shift one of my assignments to be a great excuse to interview that person. You want to capture that information. So whether it's a task list or a career map or whatever, make sure you don't lose those thoughts. So what are some things that you might want to jot down as you're going through this? Some career paths of potential interest. Who's doing something that sounds like it might be fun or interesting or, quite frankly, lucrative to do? Companies. You're going to hear about a lot of companies here. What are some of the companies that you want to track down? We'll talk a little bit later, in just a sec actually, about how to track down more information about companies. But the more you know about all the companies and all the players that are out there, the more you know where the opportunities are going to be. So action items. So you're writing down your questions. Now you're writing down your action items. What are you going to do? Who are you going to do it with? When are you going to do it? You're going to research companies. Which ones? You're going to create a killer online presence. How many of you have a killer LinkedIn profile up? Okay, so here's what I'll tell you. I do a lot of workshops on LinkedIn, so I know it pretty well, career workshops. So anybody in this audience, at the end of this, you'll see my email. I will be more than happy to take personal emails from any of you with any questions about your careers or anything else. But when I get your email, the first thing I'm going to do is check out your LinkedIn profile. Now, if you have a great LinkedIn profile, I'll know that you took my advice and you went online and got your LinkedIn profile up. And so I can actually help you. If I go online and you're not there on LinkedIn, or I can't find your profile, or it's like no picture, the weird icon kind of a thing, I'll know I'm not going to be able to help you much. So I would say create your killer online presence is almost the first thing you do. The other thing you're going to want to note is who you want to connect with. And I would say everybody who's presenting at this conference, if they're anywhere in your field of vision in terms of career path, these are people you want to connect with and stay connected with. So if I were you, I would be following up everyone with a thank you email and an, oh, by the way, would you be willing to connect with me on LinkedIn? So that you're increasing your visibility. So these are the kinds of things that you want to be writing down in your career guidebook or journal or whatever. Okay, so here's where you double down on your tuition dollars. Whether you use them or not, your tuition dollars have gone to pay for a very expensive library and librarian salaries, a career center, and somebody who's managing probably an alumni network. So you want to become best buddies with the business librarian in your library. You may never set foot in your library again. I'm not going to judge. I do have a master's degree in library and information science, but I won't feel bad if you don't use it for tons of research. I will, however, feel badly for you if you haven't gone into the business librarian and said, show me how to do research on a company. Show me how to do research on an industry. Show me how to find industry trends. Show me how to find industry salaries. A business librarian knows stuff that is pure gold for you guys. So you want to go in, you don't need to bring chips or anything like that. Just go in and sit down and say, I hear you're the most valuable person on campus. They will love you, they will remember your name, and they will go out of their way to help you achieve the goals that you're trying to achieve. How many of you are making good use of your career services people? Okay, you guys are actually in a pretty high proportion. Most times when I ask people this, the responses range from, we had a career center, to, oh, criminy, I knew I should have gone in and talked to those guys. Trust me, and this is coming from me as a parent who paid college tuition for a son. We had many long chats about, and what did they tell you at the Career Center this quarter? And when you checked in with the Career Center this quarter and told them you were looking for an internship, how did that go? The Career Center is there specifically to help you launch your career. So they've got tools, they've got resources, and they've got connections. Do not graduate without having done an internship somewhere. Do not graduate without having worked on a real-life project with someone somewhere so that you can talk about that in an interview situation. Career Services is there to help you, and the sooner you get to know them, the likelier it is that when so-and-so media company calls and says, we're looking for a project person, a student who could come in and work part-time with us on this really cool project for 3 months, your name is going to be the one they remember and the one they recommend. So you want to be best buddies with that business librarian and get to know your Career Services Center. If you have not been in yet, go in now and start going in on a regular basis. Lastly, I'm assuming almost every school has an alumni association, and they usually have a mentor network as well. These people are specifically standing up and saying, we're here to help. We want to help you find your way. We're here to answer questions. We're here to help you use our network, which, trust me, by the time they've been in business for 20 years is huge. So you want to find out immediately what kind of a mentor network is there, if there is one, and definitely what is the alumni network, because your key to getting jobs is going to be networking with someone who knows someone. Okay, tactic number 8. I'm going to guess, I don't need to point out which one of these is a professional skill and which one, under most circumstances, is not. Occasionally, but not normally. College, grad school, undergrad is a perfect place to practice your professional skills because you can kind of fall on your face a couple of times and the world doesn't come to an end. And trust me, if you want to fall on your face a couple of times, you want to do it before you get your job rather than after. So what are some of the things that you could practice while you're in your programs? Making classroom presentations. I was talking to someone about this issue and how difficult this is for all of us, and someone mentioned that what Jerry Seinfeld had said, that if you look at the list of the 10 most stressful activities in life, the #1 stressful activity is giving a public presentation. It outranks dying. So Seinfeld's comment was, so imagine you're at a funeral, the guy is in the casket, he's happier than the guy giving the eulogy. This is a human condition, and I'm not going to argue it, it always happens. But the more times you have practiced it, the easier it becomes. So I'd say look at those professional skills that you want to have down cold, or as cold as possible by the time you graduate. Practice them every single opportunity you can in college, because you don't want to be practicing them on the job. Trust me. Okay. You want to practice making decisions, because this goes right along there with that learning on demand. If you have a difficult time making decisions, you are going to trip yourself up and you are going to lose career opportunities. So you want to figure out how you make decisions, get used to that process, and practice it over and over again, whether it's buying a car, going out on a date, posting that post on Facebook that you're a little hesitant about. Figure out how you make a good decision so that when you're at work, when you're in your career, You can make those decisions cleanly, you can make them quickly, and you can do a total commit because you know you've done the best with the information you have at hand. Collaborating with classmates, here's where your group projects come in. Again, it's not easy for us to all work together because we all have a different work style, different work ethics, different work approaches. But if you can learn how to negotiate those issues and be able to work well with others so that everybody knows, oh yeah, Susan is the one who plays well with others. Susan is the one you can throw into any group and she's going to land on her feet and bring out the best in everybody. That's who you want to be. This is the one that I can't emphasize strongly enough, right up there with networking, is build your brand visibility and do it online. Start with LinkedIn if you don't already have that nailed. This goes back to our professional equity thing. One of the things that a finance instructor told my son, which I thought was an absolutely brilliant statement, try not to give people a reason not to trust your judgment. So remember we were debating whether or not to post that thing on Facebook? Consider that 90% of hiring managers are going to check you out online before they consider whether or not to interview you. They're looking at your resume, they're looking at 400 resumes, yours is the next one there. They're going to look for you online. If you're really lucky, first they found you on LinkedIn and saw a killer LinkedIn profile. And then what else did they find as they went deeper? Well, maybe they found a great presentation on SlideShare. Maybe they found that great video. Maybe they found a blog that you do in an interest that you really want to become well known for. Consider all the things that you do online, and if you've got some bad, let me rephrase that. If you have things online that in a moment of being carried away in the moment, shall we say, you post it online, what you want to do is if you can't get them offline, you want to paper over them, which means you want to have so much other stuff come up first that by the time that would show up, it's 3 pages down. They're not going to look that far. So just keep this in mind as you are building your profile. LinkedIn is the starting point. Please, please do not have that creepy sort of gray thing there for a photograph. It makes everybody wonder what you're hiding. So it doesn't have to be a perfect photograph, but it does need to look reasonably friendly and reasonably professional. If you don't do anything else online in terms of an online presence, LinkedIn will do it for you. LinkedIn will basically be your resume, your showcase on steroids. And this one to me is key because I've spoken to some student groups where some of the students have said, I think this whole brand thing is a crock. You know, it's really artificial and I don't want to package myself like a commodity and have a brand. Here's the reality to keep in mind. You have a brand every single day, whether you're shaping it actively or not. It's all of the things that you do, that you say, your interactions, your clothing, how you treat people, how you responded in a crisis. You are building that brand every single day. You are teaching people whether or not to trust your judgment, whether or not you're a strong contributor. So I would strongly recommend that you make the effort to shape that brand yourself to make sure that there are not misperceptions about who you really are. Tactic number 10, last one, take the leadership role in everything, in your career, in your courses, in your life, because it's the way that you get unstuck. Every time that you don't do that, that you blame someone else for what went wrong, that you let someone else make a decision for you, you have ceded not only responsibility, but also agency. You have given over the power in your life to someone else, and I gotta believe that nobody really wants to do that. So when you think about what that looks like, that means first and foremost taking responsibility for your choices. Now, I've had a great career. I love my career, but there have been moments where what I wanted to say more than anything was, oh, crap, whose idea was this? Well, unfortunately, it was my idea. And so I have no one to blame, but what I do have is the ability to learn from bad decisions. If you hold yourself accountable, it means that you can learn from whatever went wrong and pick it up and not repeat, hopefully, not repeat that same mistake again. It may take a couple of times, but hopefully you're learning, and that's why you want to be responsible. Same thing, take responsibility for your outcomes. You can't always make great decisions. You make the best decision you can with the information you have at the moment, and sometimes it just turns out to really have been a bad decision. Nobody's fault. Take responsibility for it, own it, move on, and just, if you can learn a lesson from it, learn that lesson, but then move on. Don't beat yourself up if a choice that you made turned out to have been the wrong choice. You didn't know it would be at the time. And since I'm from Denver, I had to have one slide where I worked in Manning and the Broncos. And actually, Jeff is not here, and I was sort of doing this for Jeff, Jeff Baumgartner and I worked together at Jones Intercable. But one of the things that I personally like about Peyton Manning as a quarterback is that he owns both their defeats and their successes. And happily, this year, more successes than defeats. But one of the things when he comes off the field, if they've had a success, is not just say, are we like really terrific or what? He says, why did we win? What did we do that helped us win this time? So that we can continue to build on those strengths. So I would say, and sorry about the last S there on our successes, I would say own your successes, take credit for them, give yourself an attaboy or attagirl, but also then debrief yourself. Why did it work? Because that's what I want to keep doing. And with that, good luck with your careers while you're in school. I hope you make the most of all your tuition payments. And here is my LinkedIn URL. If you want to practice asking somebody to link, if you haven't done that before, send a link to me, a link request, and just say, Kim, I was in the presentation that you did Friday. If you have any questions that I can help with, you've got my email address, but just remember, first I'm going to look at your LinkedIn profile to see what you did. Okay, any questions? Yes?
This may be a silly question. For some people, certain things that are posted, let's say on Facebook, are considered harmless. I have a friend who is a teacher, and she was actually fired recently for posting a picture of herself on a family vacation because she was wearing a bikini. So, from a professional standpoint, what sort of things are employers looking at specifically when they're checking those kinds of social media sites?
Well, one of the things they're looking for is what you do in your personal life, quite frankly. There was a phase that started about 18 months ago where a lot of employers were asking, and I don't use Facebook, I'm a LinkedIn person, but I understand that you can gatekeep your Facebook account so that some people can see like a public Facebook and other people are only allowed behind the wall that you give permission to. And employers were asking for that password so they could see behind the wall. And what they were looking for, quite frankly, is what are you doing in your personal life? There's now a lawsuit going on about whether or not this is legal. I think it's just so horrifically appalling. You know, who would want to work for that company anyway? But I think I would tend, in an online presence that was publicly visible, not to have anything that was too personally intimate, I guess I would say. And I would say me being in a bikini would be way too personally intimate. So I think that's a great question because it depends on the company that you're looking at going after in terms of employment. But generally speaking, once you start building your career, you want to err on the side of discretion. So I would say that was ridiculous and she shouldn't have been fired, but those kinds of things happen. Other questions? Yeah.
Hi, I have a question about I want to go back to when you said about alumni associations.
Mm-hmm.
I go to a community college, so alumni associations aren't really available for our staff. What other substitute would you recommend for us we need someone for mentorship?
Great question. Here's what I would do. First of all, I would recommend joining every professional group that is of remote interest to you while you're in school. And here's why. Remember that student halo we talked about? You can join almost any professional group for like next to no money. The reason is they're dying to get you in once you're a professional. So when you sign up as a student with a professional association, you get access to their entire membership list. And so you can reach out to someone who is in an area that you're interested in and just say, I'm a student in this program. I'd love to know more about this. Would you be willing to have me occasionally reach out to you with some questions? That's a great question to ask, by the way. I would also, and on the associations thing, the day before you graduate, you renew your membership again. So you get it essentially twice for the student rate. I would also go to the professors that you have in any of the programs that you really like and say, I am looking for someone who can help coach me in this area. Usually in career colleges, I shouldn't say usually, in Colorado, a lot of the instructors in career colleges are also practitioners, which means they're working in the field and they have a lot of connections in the field. So I would go to your instructors as well. And then there's the also tried and true. You want to meet a whole bunch of people in a specific area where you live. You organize a career day on that topic. And then you reach out to key individuals from the companies that you're interested in and bring them in to do a panel for the students. Okay, you've just upped your visibility with all of those people. They've gotten to know you as someone who takes initiative, who's an up-and-comer, who is comfortable reaching out to people. So, and you're connecting you're building a network with all those people as well. If I were you guys, I'd be arranging career days just once a quarter, once a semester, because in terms of brand building and visibility and networking, you can't beat it. You get to know all of the key players because you're the one who initiated it. Great question. Other questions? Yes?
Yeah, this is, you touched on this earlier, and it's something that, me and my peers kind of have a little bit of an issue with. It's sometimes because there's so many different, like you said, there's 400 kind of different opportunities within the media industry or different jobs to, kind of associate yourself with. It becomes a little overwhelming. So do you have any kind of tips in terms of how to approach that? Is it better to focus on one goal? Is it better to just be open about whatever you'd like to do?
Great question, and that's the dilemma that most college students face. The deer in the headlights, oh my God, what do I want to do? There's so much that I could do. And so what I would encourage you to do is start your program very open to opportunities, listen to guest speakers, do as many informational interviews, career days, those kinds of things as you can. Read the trade publications in the areas that you think you might be interested in to get a sense of whether or not this is really resonating with you. And one of the ways you can tell that it is if you read something and think, whoa, this is incredibly cool. I want to find out more about this. That's a click. That's an aha moment that tells you this may be of interest to you. But then I would also encourage you to keep in mind that your first job out of college is your first job. As every one of the speakers has mentioned, well, first I started off doing this, and then I ended up going over here, and I ended up going over here, and then sort of zigged and zagged. I've done for the past 20 years sort of a career agenda every year at the end of the year, and it's really useful because I know what I want to go after, and then the year happens, and without fail, at least 5 things drop in my lap that I never would have thought about. They were total serendipity, But because I have a big network of contacts and a lot of people know what I can do, they think of me for those things. That's what's going to happen in your careers. As you build expertise and visibility around your brand expertise, more and more people are going to come to you. So to your question, I would say make that almost top of mind, exploring all of those options, sort of maybe picking a top 15 I might be interested in. Research those while you're in school, connect with people, do your informational interviews, and then just start. And get that first job, and how is that working? And time is up. So any other questions that you have? I'll be at lunch. I'll be glad to talk to anyone or follow up via email. Thanks so much.